In this presentation and in the next few, we're going to really dig into some of the key tenets of realist international relations theory. And this is important because realism itself is an important perspective on international politics, but many of the other ideas that we're going to study in this course are responses to realism in one way or another. So realism really becomes a bedrock for our understanding of international politics. So it's important that we understand it. And so this is going to repeat some things that are in the textbook, but it's also going to expand on them. And a couple of concepts, or three concepts that we want to focus on are anarchy, self-help, and the security dilemma. And essentially what realist theory does is it starts with this idea of anarchy and then deduces what follows from that. What are the consequences of an anarchical international system? So let's start. What do we mean by anarchy? It means something very simple. It means that there's no central ruler, right? So the international system is considered anarchic because there is no global government. There's no global sovereign. And that is a logical consequence of the sovereignty of the states, right? States have sovereignty, therefore there's no international sovereign. So there, again, two sides of the same coin. What anarchy doesn't mean, to be clear, is chaos, right? There can be order under anarchy. And in fact, one of the big questions of international politics is, given that the system is anarchic, how much order can we get? So we want to stress that, right? Anarchy simply means no central ruler, but it doesn't necessarily mean chaos or disorder. So the question that realism puts front and center is, how do states provide for their security in an anarchic system? Who will protect you if somebody attacks, is the question that realists ask. And their answer is no one. And so this term self-help is really important to realism. It's a self-help system. If you're not prepared to protect yourself, nobody else is going to do it. So if you think of contemporary examples, right? Ukraine had a bunch of its territory taken by Russia. No one was going to help Ukraine. There's a lot of talk about, oh, this was bad that Russia did this. But in the end, nobody was going to go to war with Russia for the sake of Ukraine. Hong Kong is now really being put under the thumb by China. Hong Kong really doesn't have the power to resist China, and no one is going to come to Hong Kong's aid. So it goes, right? Historically, you think of all the states or the countries that once existed but don't exist anymore. Scotland, Schleswig-Holstein, which is now part of Germany. Naples, which is now part of Italy. If you're not able to protect yourself, the realists stress this, you simply might cease to exist. So realists then have a very clear focus on what kind of power matters in international politics. It's the ability to coerce or to hurt or to conquer, right? Or alternatively, right, the power to prevent others from doing those things to you. Essentially, it's military power. The power to invade other countries or to stop other countries from invading you. That's how realists see power. The secondary factor, they also see economics as power, in part because it's with economic power that you're able to buy military power. But realists also acknowledge, in some cases, economic power itself can be a very strong lever. If you can bribe other countries or coerce them economically, that's a form of power as well. But the key point we want to get at then is, for the realists, power is always relative, right? And the way I think about this is, if you have 100 tanks, is that a lot or a little? And for realists, that's not enough information to answer the question. Having 100 tanks is a lot of tanks if your potential adversary has 10. But if your potential adversary has 1,000, then 100 tanks is not so powerful. So power is always relative, right? Are you more or less powerful than those who might attack you? What follows from that is this idea of politics as a zero-sum game. Whatever is good for one side is bad for another, right? If you take if what's good for one side is bad for the other, then the losses of one side, are always gains for another. And the total of gains and losses is zero. That's why we call it a zero-sum game. This happens in security, right? If one side is more secure, it means by definition that somebody else is less secure, because the one side is more secure because they've got more weapons, more ability to fight. It's also true economically in the realist world, in the sense that if you've got more wealth, that's more ability to buy weapons and potentially coerce others. So it's a it's a view of politics that sees conflict of interest as at the center of everything, and focuses on the ability to hurt others or to coerce them. So, question we just want to wind up this short introductory section with is, so far at least, what do you think this model captures effectively about the way the world works? And what do you think it misses?